Gee, why do I feel like no one wants to talk with me or hang out with me? Black sheep. You know, I'm just telling you like it is, and I'm expressing who I am, and I'm not candy coating it, I'm not sugarcoating it. You know, I'm J. Stewart Dixon. I'm the author of fucking Spirituality for Badasses. You deal with that shit, man. So I'd like to challenge you with this statement. One is either living their life with courage or with fear, and there's no in between. And so the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I would like to help you to live a life with no fear. I'd like to help you to live a life with courage. And so this discussion should be had. It needs to be had if these are things that you think about. If you're thinking about spiritual awakening, if you're thinking about enlightenment, if you're thinking about knowing thyself, if you're thinking about self-actualization, if you're thinking about living a better life, well then really what you're thinking about is living a life that's either with courage or a life that is with fear. And so I would like to direct you towards courage, right? And it's not easy. So I've been living without fear. I've been living in a courageous state of clarity, in a state of okayness. And this is not to say that it's without stress or it's problems, you know, it's not that, it's not perfection, but it is a state that is free of a fundamental type of fear, a fundamental existential fear. It's free of that. And that makes room, therefore, for doing courageous things, for being bold, for trying this, for trying that, for being creative. And the reason that I bring this up again, I want to help you to live more courageously, but I also want to vent. And you won't hear too many other teachers, you know, talk about this. That's why I, you know, have a black sheep on the video cover of this page. And it's lonely. Living without fear and living in more of a courageous, spacious space is lonely. There just aren't a whole lot of people out there that you can really talk to that actually deeply see you, because they're living in fear. And it seems to be most people are living in fear. So you end up walking through your days on this kind of like surface level, or all the interaction is based on fear, is based on ego, on mind, on self-contraction, on the unpretty things, you know, and then your interaction with them tends to be shallow, one-sided. It's not a courageous conversation or interaction. So that's how most of my interactions are. And you end up kind of feeling, when you're living this way, when you're living with openness in your heart, you end up feeling lonely. You end up sort of feeling like you aren't being seen, you aren't being heard, you aren't being met fully. And it's one of the paradoxes of spiritual awakening. It's one of the paradoxes of knowing thyself. And again, you know, I'm saying I'm like an open book, black sheep all the way, my friends. You know, no other teachers that I know has mentioned this type of thing. It's a paradox, though. It's a paradoxical state of loneliness, because you're living without fear. You're living in this state that's fundamentally you're at peace. Fundamentally, you're okay. Nothing can rock your boat. You are awareness. You've realized who you are. You're the absolute ground of all that is. You've realized that that's who you are. Yet, and here's the paradox: is you're still here. You still got a mind and the vestiges of a personality, and the body that you have to deal with, and the life and the mortgage. You still have all that. So you still have to interact in the world at the level of fear with others, and it becomes a little lonely, and it gets tedious too, because when all of your interaction is on the surface level, it's just soul sucking. And so, when you arrive to this space, you long to meet others and to talk to others and interact with others. It's really one of the reasons I do what I do. It's one of the reasons that I write books, that I make videos, that I offer courses, that I offer classes. Because I want to interact with people who are courageous. I'm sick and tired interacting with people who are just living their life off of fear, based on fear. So there's a kind of a selfish spiritual need. I want to meet and hang out with other courageous people because it's lonely being a courageous person, because there aren't many of us. So, that being said, if you still want it, if you're still looking for this, if you still want to wake up after that little spiel, if you still have this urge that just won't go away, that's just beckoning to you, that's just calling to you to live a freer life, to live a life that is more with integrity, with honesty, with clarity, and with fucking courage, if you still want that, then namaste, motherfuckers, I'll help you out. Oh, God. Is it any wonder teaching this shit is difficult and you don't get heard? Is it any fucking wonder that that there's just no audience for this kind of thing? So, okay, so living a life, you've determined internally that, okay, I'm done with this fear thing. I'm done, living in a box with my limitation and with these frustrations and with anger and with this depression or whatever it is that is biting your ass on a day-to-day basis, right? You're done with that, and you've had a courageous moment where you've really said, I'm done with that and I'm going to do something about it. That's your first step into courage. When you raise your hand, you say, there's got to be something different, and you begin seeking and you begin searching, right? And a little bit of that courage seeps in. And so you start to marry, and I'm going to be explaining this, and all the while, this is the process. Okay, so pay attention here, because this is the process that one goes through as I'm explaining it in the third or the fourth or the fifth person, or however I'm telling this little story. Okay, so that's your first step in courage and your first step out of depression or whatever the shit that you're dealing with is this courage to say, I want out. That's your first step. That, maybe there is a possibility, and you begin seeking, you begin looking, okay? And what that does, that little bit of courage then starts to marry itself to your attention and to your attention span. So you start to pay more attention to things that are helping you to find more courage, i.e., spirituality, meditation, yoga, things that are outside of the box, things that are alternative, things that say, hey, happiness does not lie in buying that new car and the new house and the shiny new job and all that shit. Happiness doesn't work that way. Happiness is elsewhere. Happiness, there's a different route to happiness. And you start paying attention to that. So that first bit of courage, when you raised your hand and said, there's got to be something more than this shit, that courage is marrying itself, you see, to your attention, and your attention is drawn to those types of things. So your life starts to take on a more streamlined quality. You have more synchronicity, you have more like things that happen to you, and you're starting to pay attention to things and listen to things that you wouldn't have heard of before because you were asleep. You were living with fear, and you are okay with that fear. But now this attention has grown, and you're like, there's got to be a better way that I can make a living. There's got to be a better way that I can meet people and socialize. I got to have a better friend group. And there's got to be a better way of being at more peace with myself, because right now I'm just an anxious motherfucker every single day, and it's not working. So that's the first part. It takes usually takes most people years to really develop an attention span that is worthy of going on the bigger trek. A lot of times people will develop a little bit of attention and put a little bit of their energy into spirituality, a little bit of their energy into self-actualization, a little bit of energy into overcoming their fear, but not a whole lot. They just didn't gather enough courage and marry it with enough attention so that it could build up their reservoir so they could take the next step. And the next step is awareness. So awareness and attention are just two parts of the same stick. Attention is at the rear end and awareness is out front. It's more refined. And what awareness is this noticing of the noticer. It's this noticing that there's this watching, witnessing part of you that's always in place, that is registering everything that's going on in your life. It's been with you your whole life, as a matter of fact, and you know this for damn certain. Because there's that part of you that if you look back on your life, you will recognize it was there when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, when you were a young adult. There's this part of you that's just you, right? It's gone unchanged. That's your awareness. Okay, that's the aware part. So slowly what happens is now this courage has bolstered itself and married itself to attention, and now you're seeing this awareness. And with this awareness, and here's the key, okay, here's more courage coming at you. Okay, you start to be self-aware. And what happens when you start to become self-aware is fear starts to come up because you've got all sorts of undealt with shit that's stuck in your fucking body, right? And so all this undealt with shit starts to come up. And if you meet it with this awareness, guess what that does? It bolsters your courage. Okay, you grab just another nugget of courage, and then that you put it in the courage pile, and now you can handle more fear. Now you can handle more of the shit that's coming up because you're now more self-aware. And what I mean by this shit is emotional stuff that's been held from childhood, physical stuff that might be also from childhood, or from holding a knot in your stomach for so long, or being super stressed at school, or having an anxiety attack with your parents who are fighting in the background, and alcoholics and drugs and all the rest of this shit. And all your body picks up on all that stuff. So there's all the stuff that you deal with that comes up when you start to become more self-aware. Is all of these things, and it will purge itself for a long time. But the more you do it, the more courage you get. And then that courage becomes stronger and stronger. And then it leads to the next step. You following me? It's just you're gathering courage. Which of course means that you're doing the opposite, which is meeting fear. You've gone now from the one moment where you said, I want out, to paying more attention, to becoming more self-aware, to noticing the noticer. So now the next step. The next step is becoming mindfully aware. And mindfulness is just another step beyond awareness. Mindfulness is finally understanding that before anything else, you are the mindful, watching, witnessing, self-aware part. And it's solidly in place, and there's not much that rocks it. When you become a mindful master, essentially, all of your interactions and all of life, you're leading with your mindful awareness first. Most of the time, the mental, ego, chitter-chattering mind is not out front doing business. It's the aware part of you. So you meet everybody with a kind of solid equanimity, with a kind of silent confidence. That's what mindfulness does for you. You're at peace with yourself. You have no agenda. And it's not perfect. You still got the mind chitter-chattering away when it chitter-chatters, and it's an art form. But this mindfulness starts to develop when you see the benefits of it over and over again. And you also begin to realize that it's really the only place that is offered to you in this existence where there's a guaranteed sense of being on a peaceful island. Is that when you're mindfully aware, it's kind of like it's your resort island that has that's free of the hurricanes, that's free of the tidal waves, that's free of the shipwrecks. It's your island that you stand on where it's calm and it's clear. That's what mindfulness is. And it's a really awesome, beautiful thing when you become mindful. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of dealing with fear to get to that point where you're more mindful. And mindfulness is a big step. There was actually a thing that I went through where like I met a huge amount of fear. And then after that, basically, I was very much a mindful person at that point. My whole personality changed after that. A lot of fear unraveled and went and melted away, and then I became a more courageous person. And see, now by the time you get here to this point, in this third stage where you're mindful, you know the benefits of spirituality. You know the benefits of getting in bed with courage and saying fuck you to fear. So you're raring to go. When you've experienced the benefits of mindfulness, that will do one of two things for you. If you're young enough, that gives you the impetus to keep on going. And I'm going to get to what keep on going is here in a second. And if you're older, you might not do that. You might just live a mindful life, which is awesome. But if you happen to realize all this shit at an early age and you have the energy to keep going, you're going to keep going. This is exactly what happened to me because I got onto this shit early. I started spirituality when I was like 18. And so I had the wherewithal and the energy and the time. I didn't have much money, but I didn't need money. I figured out a way to do it without money. But that's not that I didn't pay for shit, because I certainly did. I spent thousands of dollars on spiritual activities. It's a side story. At any rate, so what's beyond mindfulness for you? And what's beyond mindfulness is spiritual awakening, which you may have come to this video for that. I don't know. Maybe you're interested in this type of thing, but who knows? So what is spiritual awakening? So the way I describe spiritual awakening is this. Spiritual awakening is when this awareness that you've been cultivating comes forward, it comes forward, it comes forward, it comes forward, and it goes through attention, it gets awareness, and then it goes to mindfulness. And then what is spiritual awakening? Spiritual awakening is this. Most of us, when we started on this path, we got this mind, okay? And it always pops back up and is at the forefront in its control. And what spiritual awakening is you're drawing this awareness forward. It was way in the back to begin with, and then it flips. That's what spiritual awakening is. Now, mind is permanently in the background, and awareness is permanently in the front. And they're there to stay. Okay? Now, this does not mean that ego mind goes away. You still need ego mind to wipe your ass in the toilet, cross the street, cook dinner, pay the bills, all the rest of that. There's this erroneous idea in a lot of spiritual awakening, and I'm adamantly against it, that the ego mind completely goes away and you're just left in some sort of turd state. Some sort of like comatose retard state where there's no mind. And that is not the case, and pardon my being politically incorrect there. I get all wired up about that subject. So spiritual awakening. Yeah, spiritual awakening happened to me 14 years ago. So I am deep into this shit, right? Spiritual awakening happened to me 14 years ago. A big chunk of fear fell off. I realized there is no self, there's no higher self, there's no lower self, there is no fucking self. There's just this I don't need this reality. And this body isn't separate from this reality. And there is no separate entity that's living inside this body. What a bunch of cartoon physics that is. There is no separate entity living inside this body. The consciousness, the awareness that you realize with spiritual awakening is that it is everything. Consciousness and awareness is everything. And it's primary. So I had this awakening 14 years ago. And how does one get awakening? Well, it's a matter of becoming very, very, very mindful and dealing with a lot of your internal shit, and becoming very, very courageous and being able to deal with some massive amounts of fucking fear. That's what it takes to spiritually wake up. That's what it takes to know thyself. It's some serious fucking shit. But you see, by the time you get there, you're ready for it. It's not like people come to spirituality and they think, oh, this is going to happen overnight and you've got to deal with all this stuff. No. Like, I had been to the gym. I've been working out in this gym for a long ass time, and I was strong and I was big. I was a big motherfucker when spiritual awakening came. And I said, yeah, I can handle that, and I gobbled it down. And that was easy weight to lift by the time I got there. But it does not happen overnight. So after spiritual awakening, that's when you're living basically a mostly courageous life and a life that is free of fear. That's not to say that that fear, all of it goes. I still have fear if there's a bus that goes right in front of me at in the road and I just nearly stepped out in it. I still have fear if someone scares me in the middle of the night. There's that kind of fear. Don't plant your stupid spiritual religious ideas of living with enlightenment or spiritual awakening or living without fear onto those who have woken up, because most of the time 90% of it is bullshit. So it's nuanced. It's not black and white. It's a very gray area, spiritual awakening. Fuck. So I've been in this living in this condition for 14 years, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I live in a blessed state of mostly fearlessness, and knowing that I'm fundamentally okay and knowing who I am. And then that's just on the normal days. On really good days, I'll have these blissful nirvikalpa samadhi states that come and go all the time. Like if I sneeze, I'll have them. Where I feel really amazing. If I have a glass of wine, then the nirvikalpa samadhi kicks in. This blissful feeling. If I smoke a little dope, it kicks in. So when you cultivate this courage in you that makes it the majority of who you are, it doesn't take much from the outside then to kind of like exacerbate it, to put a buzz into it, to make it glow. But as I said in the beginning of this video, it is rather lonely because there aren't a whole lot of courageous people out there, and eventually you get so sick and tired of the same old conversations with fearful people. Because fearful people all just talk about fearful things, or they talk about fearful minutia. That's what they do. They avoid real conversations. They just talk about football and the weather and the latest gossip at work and the latest TV show and this and that and the other thing. They don't touch or go near anything that's existential or spiritual in nature or dark night of the soul or ego or shadow. They won't touch that shit with a 10-foot pole. Most people are that way, and it gets really, really tedious. It's really, really tedious. So did you follow the 4 steps there? There's attention, there's awareness, there's mindfulness, and then there's spiritual awakening. And all that together is knowing thyself. The whole process is knowing thyself. And it takes some time. It's not overnight. It's not a process that is guaranteed either. There's a lot of people get derailed here and there and everywhere, and it depends on your age and how much energy and time that you have. But it does come down to living a life, again, with fear or with courage. You're either, on any given day, you're choosing fear or courage, and most people are choosing fear. The more courage that you cultivate and live by and have, the more likely you are to get more courage, to do more things, to be more open, to try new things, to live more in the heart, to live more with freedom. So those are your only 2 choices, are those 2 things. I don't know, what else is there to talk about? I think we've just about covered everything that I wanted to say about courage and fear. You're living one or the other. And I hope that those 4 signposts helped you out. All 4 of those teachings, all 4 of those posts are in all my books. Read Spirituality for Badasses Book 1 and Book 2, and you'll get the complete map, the complete detailed map of what it takes to arrive at spiritual awakening. You'll get it all in those two books. If you sit down and you read, and you pay attention and you read those books from beginning to end, you will have everything that I have to give you, and you'll understand it. And that is my gift to you today, and to this world, and to life, and I hope that it helps a few of you out. Alrighty, take care, bye-bye.